Welcome, fam. It's Ty Bledsoe here, CEO of Undisputed LLC, and we are announcing the Undisputed Podcast. And today is my first episode, and my first guest is Byron Sanders. Yes, we're here in Big B, the Dallas-Fort Worth. Byron Sanders is the current CEO of Arete Health, and he's the former CEO of Dallas Big Thought. Coming up, you're going to learn about education, solutions about the future, his time with President Bush and President Clinton, and yes, stay tuned for a special message that Byron is going to drop during the podcast. Until then, take care. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to another episode of the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Ty Bledsoe, the CEO of Undisputed LLC and the host. Today, you're going to be inspired, you're going to be empowered, and you're going to find the solution and even the formula to bet on yourself. We're here with a good friend of mine and a leader that is changing the community and maybe changing the world. Check out this bio. Byron, I'm going to speak to you, but I'm also going to speak to the audience. This brother has just got some unbelievable, look, talking about bio, an unbelievable bio. He is the founder and CEO of Arete Health. He's the former president and CEO of Big Thought. He has a ton of accolades, including Dallas Business Journal's Most Admired CEO, Dallas Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Award, the NCAA Legends and Legacy Community Award. He's a presidential leadership scholar. Oh, we're going to get on that because it involves two presidents of the United States that are still living. And also, he serves on multiple boards of directors, including Dallas College Foundation, Fort Oak Cliff, and he is a trustee of his alma mater, the University of Tulsa. He's committed to community revitalization and closing the gap for youth in marginalized communities. And he is committed to fundamentally reshape healthcare in the United States of America. Please welcome to the Undisputed Podcast, Byron Sanders.
My man.
Byron Sanders.
Brother, I'm going to make that a ringtone. You know, just like maybe my alarm when I wake up in the morning. It's like, yo, that's who I am. Let's go. Thank you, brother. I'm so excited.
Man, it is a pleasure. Look, you have just dropped on social media. It's gone viral, right? You are the new CEO, right, of Arete Health, right? Now, look, that came out little bit after you and I were messing about this opportunity, right? I did not know.
It's so funny, man. I told you, your spidey senses were tingling or something like that. And you know what, man? It's just, it's God, it's the universe. Thank you, brother. But yeah, no, we just made it, we made the announcement public this week. What was it, yesterday? What is today? Goodness gracious. Yeah, yes. We announced it this week and the reception has been amazing. We are so excited.
Listen, man, you have people around this country, around this community, around the world who are rooting for you, right? I was seeing some of the comments and folks are like, oh my goodness, move, game changer and such forth. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be a fantastic conversation with Byron. So brother, okay, let's take it from the top. Okay. Big congratulations. Check this out. How did your youth impact your perspective on leadership, community service, and economic investment?
Man, that is such a wonderful, wonderful question. Now, I want to clarify. Are you asking about like my growing up or are you asking about the young people that I worked with?
I'm talking about yours.
Okay. So my childhood had everything to do with who I am today in ways that were intentional and then also unintentional. And it's, you know, my work in the youth development space, education spaces acknowledges that most of the things that happen to you before you're 18 years old has an outsized role in shaping who you are for the rest of your life. That's why it matters that we get education right, particularly in those K-12 spaces, because literally as your brain is developing, all of these things that are having their imprints on your life have a material effect on your entire worldview. And I'm no different. So I grew up here in Southern Dallas. I'm an Oak Cliff kid. That's when I'm wearing this right here. Oak Cliff, that's my hood. For real, for real. Multiple zip codes here apply to my life, right? So I grew up in Southern Dallas, a little bit of DeSoto, a little bit of Oak Cliff, a little bit of Pleasant Grove, really good mix in all of that. And started off going to Adele Turner, which is a phenomenal school, felt more like a family than anything. Dallas ISD public school down in Oak Cliff. And then for middle school, I went to a place called Alex W. Spence, another public school, Dallas Independent School District, but I was in the talented and gifted magnet there. So I went from a school that was all black. Everybody was black. We got one white kid when I was in 6th grade, and I was like, "Oh, Martin Luther King. This is what he was talking about, right?" It's like, the dream. We living it with one kid. But then when I went to the middle school, I was all of a sudden in the mostly Hispanic part of town, which hadn't been in a school community in that way. And then I was in the school within a school in the Hispanic part of town. So my school, or all of my core classes, a third, black, Latino, white, right? So then, interesting. And then I met a mentor who told me about Green Hill. Green Hill was a school on the other side of town. I didn't know anything about private school, had never heard of the concept. I thought it was another magnet. As a matter of fact, I thought it was another magnet even after I was there. So I got into the school, took the test, did all the things, because those were the same things I had to do to get to Spence. I just figured it was the same thing. Only way I knew it was different was my first, before classes started, you had to go get your books. That's normal. We do this in public school all the time, except when I got to the end of this line, there was a price. And I was like, ooh. And it was like something like $500. And then they said, oh, wait. And they saw a list that she had, and she's like, okay, you're good. And so me and my mom were like, what just happened? But I would learn later on, I'm at a private school. I'm in a different part of town. And I'm at a school that actually had a lot of contrast to where I grew up. This school had peacocks walking around, just meandering on these rolling green hills. And so that was actually one of the things. I went out there and that's not even their mascot. They just have birds of paradise walking around and all the resources that one would need in order to do whatever you needed to do. Like our basketball team had everybody got the Allen Iversons. Like we all had the question, the first, and it was great tip. Like, I'm a shoe guy. Like, these were fire at the time. And then every day I went from that to crossing the Trinity, the same Trinity that we're looking at right here. I would cross that Trinity on the bus. I would have to wake up in the morning, 5:00 every morning, catch the bus at 6:30. We go pick up some more kids, and then we come back home. And that experience growing up gave me not just like an academic understanding of the differences that people grow up under, but it gave me a very tactile, a very proximate experience with, even within one city, people living completely different lives. And I never forgot that. And that helped me also see the humanity on both sides, right? I understood. I have friends who lived very wealthy lives. Like the student parking lot was a nice parking lot at Green Hill, just straight up. And then also, where I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. But I also knew the brilliance that was on both sides of the river.
Yes.
And I saw the difference in opportunity was not the quality of human beings, but the availability of that opportunity. The difference in people's lives was not the quality of the people, but the availability of the opportunity. And that's when I knew I wanted to do something in that. Had no idea what it was going to be, but I knew some part, and probably the larger part of my life, was going to be dedicated to making sure that the same kind of opportunity that I got just by being at the right place in the right time, meeting the right mentor, having the right mom who's going to be willing to wake up at 5:00 every morning, drop me off at the right boys club, so that I can catch the right bus, That's not a systemic model.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very blessed and fortunate individually.
Yes.
But how do we create that kind of access for people writ large so you don't have to be in the right place at the right time in order to thrive?
Wow. Okay. We gonna unpack some of this stuff. Okay?
Yeah, man. I know that's probably a lot.
Let's the availability. That's some heavy stuff, right? Let's now move a little bit more forward, and let's talk about, because we have not just a United States audience, not just a DFW audience, not just a North Texas audience. We have a global audience here, right?
Yeah.
Particularly folks who are early to mid-career.
Mm-hmm.
Some in the nonprofit space, some in small business space, some are in corporate America, right? Some are on the cusp, right, of tapping into that God-given, right, talent. Some of them, right, have perhaps anxiety, right, self-doubt, right?
Man.
We're talking about that before we went on air.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your career. Your career spanned over multiple industries.
Yeah.
Education, philanthropy, banking, entrepreneurship, right? Now healthcare and entrepreneurship.
Right.
What steps can our audience take, early, mid, late career, to really navigate that journey successfully? Because it's not kind of a formula out there, and particularly for people like us, right?
Yeah.
We're an endangered species. And I say that endangered species, when I say that, I'm talking about Black men or Black folk, right, in the Black diaspora, right, in an entrepreneurial, executive, corporate capacity, right, that is moving the world and moving the needle. So I call us an endangered species.
Yeah, no, we are rare. Yeah.
So what can our audience members do to be able to have a story similar to you, where you've done so many things? I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, man. I will start off with, I just got to acknowledge the reality that I have been very blessed in my life, even though I've come from places that are, humble beginnings, right? My thing that I want to share, and it's a big part of maybe just a core belief here, is that I am not that special. My thing is, one, I believe that I, like everybody else, am a uniquely, wonderfully created, a singular human being. There's no one else like me. There's never been anybody like me. And there's never been anybody like you or anybody else who's listening to this. And also, man, there are so many people with so much talent all over this place. That's what I meant a little bit earlier, right? So I want to acknowledge that part first, because I do not want anybody to take what I'm about to say as, that there's a person speaking on this side of the mic who doesn't acknowledge that a lot of things had to come together that I actually didn't have a ton of control over, that allowed me to be sitting here. But for a couple of things falling very differently in life, my story could be very different. So I want to acknowledge that coming out the gate. But the thing that has helped me is knowing who I am.
Preach.
I wrote a mission statement in 2007. The mission, Byron Sanders, love my God with all my heart and soul, to be the husband, father, son, and brother according to what pleases him, and to work diligently and daily in my most sincere efforts to pursue my appointed purpose with honor, character, bravery, and love. That's mine. Obviously, faith is a big part of it for me. It does not mean that it has to be for anybody else. Everybody has to figure out what it is, but I do encourage you to find out who you are and write it down.
Yes.
Reason why. It's not just that I have a mission statement. It's that the work that it took me to get to a mission statement allowed me to truly do an assessment of who I am, what are my strengths, what are the things I'm not good at, what do I actually care about, and then identify my true North Star. I'll tell you, the first iteration of that mission was to be the best pharmaceutical sales rep the world has ever known. Now, I knew that was wrong, but I needed a place to start.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, I would ask the question, why? Whatever answer I gave, I would ask why. I kept asking why because I wanted to get to the elements. I wanted to get to the atomic level of who I was. And what I realized is that I have some really important priorities for me. And walking a purpose-driven path is really, really important. So I knew that based on that, I wasn't going to have the kind of job where I would be able to go to work and then go find purpose somewhere else. Like that was going to have to be tied to my daily getting up, coming and going. Also in that, just as another example, husband, father, son, brother, that's a very specific priority. I wrote that before I had any kids. So I knew some part of me was going to be a father, whether we could biologically have children or not, me and my wife, or whether I ended up being a father figure to somebody, but it knew that that was in me. Now, I say that because with that mission statement and being able to pull like a specific role or a job or something out of it, I took that off the table. What I said was, this is who I am, and whatever opportunities that align with that, that's what I'm going to be doing in life. Before that, I was trying to write 5-year plans. And you and I talked a little bit about this.
Yes.
I was trying to write 5-year plans. And what I have realized, I have thrown away every 5-year plan I've ever written because I realized I didn't have enough imagination to know all the opportunities that would open up if I was walking in alignment with that mission statement. And being in alignment with that mission statement has created opportunities that led from this relationship to that relationship. Take an opportunity, be who you were supposed to be with that opportunity, do right by those people, use the honor, character, bravery, and love element, show that in the moment where you are and watch what happens. Have a direction, of course, but identify who you are, find your purpose, move in your purpose. And within that, your world is widely going to open up and your mind's probably going to be blown. Yeah.
I'm real big on identifying your purpose, knowing your why. And once you know your why, be mission centered.
Come on.
Because if you're not mission centered, you're just wasting time.
That's it.
And one thing is, all of us face one thing, death. Right. So this limited space of time gives us great purpose on how we're going to use it. And we're going to be very intentional about how we spend every waking hour.
Yeah.
And so let's go here. What are the biggest inequalities in the U.S. healthcare system, and which communities are the most vulnerable here?
Brother, you know, we're filming this not too long after the assassination of the CEO of United Healthcare. And I don't think that any killing is justified. I'm against the death penalty. So I'm not going to lionize the man who took that man's life. And at the same time, we can acknowledge that there is a rage around the status of healthcare in this country right now. And I'm not going to, point at one particular person, because I think we're in a scenario where you build a system and you think the system is going to do the thing, but you look up one day, years down the line, multiple policies down the line, multiple interests down the line, and we look up and we collectively look around and say, this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. The way that I got here to solve this problem is in answer to your question. So, CEO of Big Thought. I just, left there after a 2-year succession strategy. The CEO there is phenomenal. Her name is Erin Alford. Go check them out, bigthought.org. But we had a teammate die in 2019. And this brother was one of the most phenomenal poets you will ever hear. Matter of fact, he would win competitions regularly, international competition. This man was probably one of the most beloved youth workers in this city, in this region. This man saved young people's lives, and not by anybody's hypothesis. No, these young people said, he saved my life. And he passed away from a very, very predictable, serviceable health condition. He had asthma. And the fact that this man was so uncared for with his health because he was a artist, because he would work hourly in this place and other places. He's an artist, so he gigged, right? Like he did his thing out there. That we didn't have a system that was there for him the way that he had been there for so many other people that felt very unjust to me. He's a Black man. The rate of coverage, healthcare coverage in the Black community across the country is paltry. The rate of coverage for people who are working in service industries, right? Especially entry-level workers, oftentimes working hourly jobs. The rate of coverage for the nonprofit sector. A lot of folks don't realize just how big our sector is. I say our, I'm in the for-profit space, but I still identify as a nonprofit guy. 1 in 10 people in the private sector work for a nonprofit. 1 in 10. And that industry oftentimes is very restricted. So here's how the money works oftentimes, even for well-funded nonprofits. If we get a gift or we get a grant, just the way the world works, you have a designated use for that money. It's usually a program, or maybe you're on a capital campaign, we're building a building or something like that. Okay, we got the dollars in, that's cool. But at the end of the day, there usually is rarely a funding opportunity to pay for my people's health care. So you figure it out. We MacGyver the thing. We take paper clips and duct tape and, and we try our best to take care of our people off the excess or whatever's left over. You have people out here solving life's most intractable problems, homelessness, education problems, the justice system, people working to support all these folks. When tragedy comes, who do they look to? The nonprofit sector, right? But then those same people who are caring for everybody else don't get care for themselves. So we said, you know what? We're going to build something that takes care of people who take care of people. And by demonstrating that we can do that particularly well, it makes a greater statement and even a policy statement about how we can now use preventative health care to take care of all of us. There's a system where it's not adversarial. It's the people versus the employer, or the big insurance versus little insurance, or this versus that. We can actually create a system where everybody is well taken care of from every single angle. And that's what we're focusing on right now with Arete.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to just go here.
Yeah.
We're just going to just take.
Go ahead, bro. Dive in.
We're going to take the bandages off. We're going to take all that, the Band-Aid off. Now, with Arete, your vision, I understand, is to put people and prioritize people over bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Right? Preventative health care, leverage technology in the biotech space and such forth.
That's right.
What's wrong with the healthcare? We went there a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, since we talked about this last.
I'm going to tell you. So right now, we're in a world where healthcare in America, we spend more per capita than most developed countries. Yet we have some of the most mediocre results because our healthcare system isn't truly a healthcare system. What we have is a sick care system. So here are some facts, plain facts about it. The latest biotech innovations, or any innovations, whether we're talking about in the pharmaceutical space, or the biotech space, 70% of the innovations in the healthcare space within the last 5 years are not readily accessible to the average person. And it's because 77% of people are not going to take or not going to consume a healthcare service or solution unless their insurance pays for it. But the way that we're built right now is insurance prioritizes lower cost solutions to take care of a sickness after it's been diagnosed, right? And that means that there are going to be many things that you have to take or try before we'll get to the latest and greatest. That means that, yes, we are going to prioritize generics, or maybe something that was approved by the FDA, but it was approved by the FDA maybe a decade ago, something like that, 7 years ago. Even just going back to that point, when we talk about, the latest in biotech, the latest in medicine, usually is not paid for first by insurance, what we have to recognize is that 17 years is how long it takes usually from inception to being widely incorporated into medical practice. 17 years for an innovation. 6 to 8 years even post FDA approval. So we have a situation where the things that are the latest and greatest in what people need and can use are mostly accessible if you can get into a study, or if you have cash, or if you have a doctor or physician that's willing to go through 2 prior authorizations, failures on another solution before we get here, or if you have that real niche indication in your diagnosis that says you're approved for this particular type of thing. If we could set that aside and then start to look at maybe I call it a common sense approach, which says, hey guys, instead of waiting to deny things after people get sick, what if we could prioritize in our healthcare system paying for things that prevent illness itself? What if, and this is one of the things that the Arete Health insurance actually pays for our clients. There's a test called the Gallery test. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay. Nor had I. Been out since I think 21. Mm-hmm. Test called the Gallery test. It actually screens for 50 different types of cancer. A simple blood draw. So when you go and, you're getting your lipids checked and your triglycerides and all that, one more blood draw could get you a test that would screen for 50 different types of cancers that you got to identify pre-stage 1.
Good.
We're talking the hard to find cancers. We're talking pancreatic. We're talking brain. We're talking thyroid, right? Like these are the kinds of cancers that we could actually find early. And if you find it early, the solutions not only have a better prognosis for the patient, but they are significantly less expensive. And now all of a sudden you have someone who is like my mother right now, currently dealing with cancer. We found the cancer and the doctor told us most likely it's been growing there for about 3 years. If somebody had the Gallery test every year when they go get their annual physical, I won't have to have that be our story. My father-in-law died from pancreatic cancer in 2020. My mother just got diagnosed. My father died from lung cancer 2013, 2014. So here we are in a world where we have all the solutions that we need, but we don't have a system that prioritizes paying for it when we need it. Flip that script, man. That's what Arete is doing. And in doing so, we are able to save not just a few dollars, but thousands of dollars for an organization, millions of dollars at scale. If we can prioritize prevention for that, heart health, averting diabetes, food is medicine, fitness is medicine. Now all of a sudden, you have a brand new system, and we are out to prove that. We've created a joint venture with Health Lab, and that has given us the capacity to use AI to write studies on real world use. Now we've shrunk both the time and the costs for biomedical research. We've got, been able to get 6 published studies out there. The reality is we're changing things, man. And I'm excited about what this is going to mean for the common person, right? If we can democratize preventative healthcare in a material way, what would the world look like if the same kind of healthcare that the Fortune 500 CEO gets all of a sudden is available to the receptionist? What does that world look like? That's what we're creating.
Byron, what should the typical average person, what kind of test should they be asking their doctor for, right? And how do they articulate that and advocate for themselves, right? So I'm a caregiver for my mother, right? So I retired my mother at 58 years old. And now my mother's 71, right? Has different health matters, but still she's a fighter, right? But if I'm not there with the pulmonologist, with the cardiologist, with the dietitian, with the primary, she would be neglected. She would be, as E40 would say, doesn't discuss it. Right. She would just be left to her own to figure it out, suffer, and not have the right support. For folks who do not have maybe a you or myself or caregivers and don't even have access, what types of tests should they be inquiring about, and how do they go about trying to have that right test or even have that right coverage when, like many years ago, I asked my former primary, I said, I want to do a body scan.
Yeah.
The doctor said, oh, no need to do a body scan. I said, how come? He said, oh, because usually pops up items that that are not as important. It just makes you fearful of things that are not important. And guess what? I never did a body scan. And to this day, I've never done a body scan because my former, by the way, right, walked me off that consideration. So I need to be talking about this for myself, but what do we need to be saying to our doctor? Say, like, I want this test and this is what I need to have done.
Well, Ty, that's a tough question to answer, because here's the sad part. If your insurance pays for it, it's a great thing to ask for. The sad part is, and doctors are sometimes reticent to give their honest answer because they don't know if their patient's insurance pays for it. Matter of fact, I'll tell you this. The doctor that my mother was seeing, the oncologist that my mother was seeing, I asked him, had he heard of the test, the Gallery test? He said yes. I asked him, had he ever administered it? He said no. Every doctor that I'd been talking with along my mother's journey, I asked that same set of questions, and all of them, except for one, had heard of it. And all of them had also said that they've never administered it. And they've never even worked with a patient that had had it administered. And the reason why is, there's some false positives, and they're like, or it might, identify something that's not as much to worry about. I'll tell you what I think of that notion in just a second. But the real answer came when I pressed. And he said, well, insurance doesn't pay for it usually. So I don't want to get people's hopes up. I don't want to tell them about this amazing, wonderful thing that's out there that could potentially be pretty material to their lives. But if you don't have $1,000 to come out of pocket on it, then it's almost like taking somebody to a well when they're thirsty and saying, no, you can't have a drink of water. So I would love to answer that question. There are tons of things that people need to be asking about. If what they need to do is check with their insurance to see if they do pay for a DNA screen, right? Sure. It's actually really important that people go out and get a DNA assessment because so many different things that we are predisposed toward is sitting right there in our DNA. So many medical treatments that we would actually respond well to, we know based on biomarkers. But if you don't know what yours are, then you don't have that information, and doctors don't have that information in order to make an assessment. So a DNA assessment is actually something that's really important. This pre-cancer screen, it's not the only one that's out there. There's other things that the Gallery test builds upon, right? If you have access to a cancer screen, get the cancer screen. And then there's the things that we know about. People should absolutely be going to check their colon, right? Particularly if you're in the Black community, in the Latino community, we are heavily predisposed toward GI cancers, right? You got to go get that done. The trick is oftentimes, again, back to insurance, if you're not at a certain age, they won't yet pay for it. And studies are increasingly starting to show that we need to get this. We need to do our colonoscopy a lot earlier than most people think they should be, because younger and younger people are getting pretty significant diagnoses of cancer much sooner than we have historically seen. So I would say a great question to ask is, what are the preventative scans that I need to be looking into? And I'll tell you this. I would have paid for it out of cash for my mom. Knowing our predisposition. My grandfather died from colon cancer. Knowing our predisposition, I would have paid for it. So it's still worth the question, but honestly, man, we don't have the best healthcare that science has brought us to. We have the best healthcare that we're willing to pay for. And that's why Arete Health and anybody else fighting this fight is so important, because it's not about what we can ask. It's about what we can afford.
Boy, So we talk about affordability. You talk about healthcare systems. Other countries, right? They deliver and fund healthcare very different than we do here in the United States, particularly Canada, Great Britain, Denmark, right?
Well, almost everybody.
Yeah.
If we're being honest. Yeah.
What are they doing different that we're not doing here that it seems like Arete is really looking to raise the bar here?
Well, they're listening to the science. Guys, we save significant dollars. So there was a pilot of the model that Arete is putting out into the world, 3,000 patients. And within that 3,000 patients, because of the preventative things like a full body MRI, because we're looking at continuous glucose monitoring before a person becomes, full blown diabetic, we are able to avert 111 people from diabetes. We're able to find 13 instances of stage 1 cancer, including pancreatic, including brain, including thyroid. There was a gentleman who was a triathlete who found the soft plaque that they call a widowmaker because of a biotech scan that most people don't usually get. But because they found it, because they paid for it, now all of a sudden, this man was able to go into surgery for something that the doctors were saying probably would have taken his life 6 weeks later, right? And he was the picture of health. I have you done a triathlon? I have not. No. This man did, and competed regularly. And so what other countries do is they just fund things. They just pay for it. It really isn't that complicated because they see within that 3,000 employee and patient group, because we did preventative health, about $7 million were saved doing an early stage intervention rather than a later stage. And behind every catastrophic claim, that's what catastrophic claims are, the things that cost insurance or healthcare, big costs, right? So you think about diabetes, heart attack, stroke, right? Accidents, maybe a complicated pregnancy. Those will be catastrophic claims. 7 out of the 10 most common reasons for catastrophic claims are preventable things. We just have to be looking for them. And because other countries prioritize just providing and paying for healthcare, they're more willing to do those things and look in advance. And when they do that, they end up saving themselves millions and millions of dollars. Our holy grail out of Arete Health is actually not just with the clients that we're going to be working with. Our holy grail is that the methodology gets adopted by everybody. We actually want to put ourselves out of business. We would love for the big guys to start paying for major preventative healthcare. Our holy grail is if Medicaid starts to embrace prevention. Because what is Medicaid, right? That's going toward indigent people, right? That's folks who don't have a lot of money, people who might be disabled. If they start getting access to world-class healthcare, then it's going to shift the entire market. The Overton window moves 100 meters that way, and everybody starts to normalize getting what you need to prevent sickness as opposed to wait for it to come.
People prioritize over bureaucracy.
Come on, man.
People over profits.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about investing in the youth, right? So we have parents, and listen, I want to give a shout out to all of our parents, traditional household parents, two household parents, grandparents raising their children, aunts and uncles raising their children, also to our single moms. I was raised by a single mom, hi mom, right? So I want to just give a shout out. Byron, you have, and that's how we met many years ago, right?
Yeah.
When you was president CEO of Big Thought.
Yep.
And, and we made at that time, right, the corporation, right, made a significant investment, right? And yes, we had to meet the threshold.
Yeah.
Big Thought had a threshold, right, to get on the wall. I got it this weekend. He had to read the threshold. I was like, Byron, what I got to do to get on that wall? Well, you got to give it this level of time.
Hey,
I was
man,
like,
it's all for the babies, man.
Hey.
We try to make it happen for them.
You all pretty much ran the summer program for Dallas ISD, Dallas Independent School District, right? And so you were impacting at least 250,000 youth, right?
Yeah,
K through 12.
Yeah,
right?
I think the year that y'all came in, our total touch point with our work and all of our partners was about 150,000 young people. Yeah.
What programs should parents, grandparents, caregivers really engage with their children, K through 12, or particularly that middle school to high school age, to help close the gap, to either put them in a position to pursue a college or four-year degree or to transition to a really strong career in the future?
Yeah. Ty, that's such a great question. There's no silver bullet, right? Our young people need a lot, and we need to be supporting from every single angle. And the more that a young person grows up in a community that's impoverished, the more they need. And, too often we put it on the parents, and we say, man, these parents don't value education. Well, they don't care enough about what their kids are learning or something like that. I hear that so often, and nothing could be further from the truth. But also, the real world is, where is it? Where are the programs? I don't have the money or the time to pack my kid up in a car and drive across town to find the exact perfect program in order for them to have access to, STEM or robotics or theater or something like that. That's why it's actually a systemic implication that we need to be using our major institutions to provide these everywhere. That's what Big Thought did. We went and partnered with the school district. We partnered even with the county, particularly in juvenile justice, and going to preventative ways to make sure that people don't get into the justice system, right? We partnered with everybody possible, community-based organizations, mom and pops, to provide resources here, make connections here, because what we want to do was have a whole dragnet. So it didn't matter what zip code a person was in, and they could get access to whatever they needed. The thing that families need to be looking for is what lights your kid up. What are they excited about? What gets your kid motivated? For some people, that's going to be gaming, right? There are amazing careers connected to gaming. I didn't realize this, and man, if I did, I really would have pushed back on my mom when she told me to get off the video game and get outside, right? Because there are people who are making nice salaries developing games, testing games, right? Marketing games, right? That could be the thing. Or theater. So let me tell you a little bit about theater, just to illustrate this point. The thing that I credit most with the skill sets that I've built, if I look back on all the things that I did as a kid, and I did a lot of different things, Math Olympiad, Model United Nations, I was in football, track, all of that stuff. The thing that has given me the most applicable skills for where I am today is theater, because that's where I learned how to speak. That's where I learned how to get up on the stage, make eye contact, cheat out, speak from your diaphragm, make a compelling case. I have to use the empathetic process to walk into the shoes of the person's role that I'm actually playing, right? I had to build all of these different skills, and every single one of them has been applicable in my career ever since. And so when you say, what are the things that a young person should be doing? Do something outside of a traditional classroom model, because it forces you to have applied learning as opposed to learning on a paper, right? Learning on a sheet of paper. When you do that, you're building something called 21st century skills. And 21st century skills are actually the most in-demand skills. Here's why. Technology is changing too rapidly. The jobs that we have known in our past are not necessarily the jobs that our young people are going to be seeing when they step out there. So what that means is the world is changing so dynamically. Don't try and bullseye exactly what these young people are going to be seeing. But what you should be doing is giving them the adaptable skills that are going to be applicable no matter what. And in fact, are becoming more important now than they've been in the past, specifically because technology is getting out there and changing things so dynamically. So now all of a sudden, it's not as important that you're a great math guy. What's more important is that you know how to ask the right kind of math questions. Because prompt engineering and artificial intelligence, that's how we're bringing more productivity to the world. So what are the experiences that gets your young person out there being creative, that gets them to be a problem solver, that gets them to be a doer, a thinker, a creator? Those are the experiences that you want your young person to tap into, because that is actually the more applied learning that's going to be relevant for their career path, no matter what career they end up doing.
And you give me this phrase again. 21st
century skills.
Boom, boom. You heard it here on Undisputed Podcast, 21st Century Skills. Go out there and identify solutions that get your children fired up. Fired up.
Yeah, man.
Now, let's talk about higher education. You are passionate about higher education. You serve on multiple boards, right? Your alma mater, you're serving as trustee at the University of Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
You also serve, right, on the board of directors, right, of Dallas College Foundation.
Yep.
The cost of education is astronomical, right? Debt, student loan debt is unbelievable.
Yep.
I was just talking to one of my alma maters from University of California, Davis, right? Yep. Public Ivy, right?
Come on.
Right. The tuition that I was paying when I was undergrad at University of California, Davis, that seems like it seems so unfair.
Yeah.
To what my Aggies are paying right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Debt has just become too burdensome. People are graduating with, listen, as much as you would buy a house.
Mortgage level debt.
$150,000, $200,000 for a bachelor's degree, let alone going to pursue maybe a graduate degree, law degree, medical degree. I got a couple of friends who they almost cry when they talk about the student loan debt they still are paying.
Yeah.
What is the solution here? I mean, because what can be done outside of somebody getting a scholarship, right? Or going out there, right, with you got a good jump shot. Right, you can spike a volleyball, right? You can run maybe a 9.7 100.
Yeah,
that ain't gonna be the average person. What are solutions here?
Whoever's running that 9.7, you need to see me right now. I would love to be your agent. I got some great shoes that we should be talking about. But listen, man, this ring that I'm wearing. This ring right here is the only class ring that I have. And this ring, you said it, I'm a University of Tulsa alma mater. That's my alma mater. I'm on the board of trustees there. This ring is from Dallas College. I went to Dallas College. I went to Richland as part of the Dallas College Community College system. I'm wearing this ring because I want to help us think differently and change the norm on what post-secondary education should be. It can no longer either be communicated or tried to be enacted. It can no longer be the reality that we tell people college, 4-year bachelors or bust. That is not the world that we're in. It is financially irresponsible for that to be the only story that's out there for folks. Absolutely, it should be an option that's elevated and promoted. It 100% should be. And also, there's some brothers out there, some sisters out there working in HVAC, make some good money.
Come on now.
There's some people out there who are fixing elevators that are making some good money on good hours.
Yes.
Talking with a gentleman when I was actually going up. Actually, no, it was in this building years ago, and he was doing some repair. And I just asked him, and this man, whenever they have to call him in on off hours, is $120 an hour. You hear me? I've never, right? Like in for the amount of time that he was out of school. Oh no, he was out of the military. $120 an hour. There are so many different options out there, and we need to promote those. Dallas College system, there are accredited certificates that people can get where they're going through and avionics, right? Airframe and power, people who build and repair airplanes. I didn't know that air traffic control did not require a degree. That's a 6-figure salary.
Snap.
Now you have to be trained. Of course, everything that you would do that provides a livable wage these days, you have to go and be trained, but it doesn't have to be a bachelor's degree. So the way that I think we start to reframe this conversation is you're going to need to do something after high school. Most of us need to do something after high school. However, your options are so much more vast than we have typically given the credence for. So the reality is what can we do to shorten the time frame between a person being able to start their life working and earning? That's why dual credit matters so much. If a person can graduate with the equivalent of an associate's degree, now their options, which are still pretty wide, also take half as much time usually, right? If a person is being very intentional about thinking about post-secondary as soon as they hit high school, and actually even before in middle school, then we can be intentional with our time, right? And we can find a range of different options. The community college system across this country, I believe, is going to be our saving grace, because it's going to give folks access to the option to go and pursue a bachelor's degree, or it's going to put them directly into certificate programs that allow them to start working and earning for themselves and their families off rip, right? We talk about the affordability crisis that we're dealing with right now writ large. It's hard for people to buy a house. It's hard for people to find relevant rent, healthcare, right? All of those, it just living is harder right now. We can help take a chunk out of that by helping people, young people, get to livable earning potential a lot sooner. Because if we could do that, now people do have access to healthcare through their employers if they are employed. People do have access to being able to afford things for their kids. They're able to pay for daycare, right? If we can get them to these higher earning jobs that don't necessarily always require a 4-year bachelor. And then on the other side, for employers to recognize, hey man, the job that you're hiring for, you don't need a bachelor's degree to do it. So stop making that the box that somebody has to check in order to be considered relevant for that job. Open up the world, man. And if we do that from both angles, we're just going to have millions and millions of more people being able to live thriving lives.
Boy, I want to double click on this real quick. So different paths. One of my old boss would say, Ty, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. A lot of ways to skin a cat. We went more the traditional route, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I've seen in the industry, right, particularly in the tech industry and the corporate industry, is that we got roles that folks don't need bachelor's degrees, right? It's a requirement, but for me, I'm seeing it as a potential barrier for other candidates. So it's a way to kind of, right, keep folks away from really good paying roles, good benefits, good experience, good opportunities. But we're starting to see a lot of communities of color, particularly Black and brown, becoming more discouraged about pursuing a community college degree, an associate's degree, and then they're definitely, right, concerned about debt when looking at a bachelor's degree. So I'm really interested in your solutions that you just shared here, right? Of going out there and being very proactive, right? Betting on you, investing in yourself. Because look at the Calvary ain't coming to save you, right?
Yeah, man.
I'm interested in this. You're a presidential leader, scholar. I see that smile pop on your face, right? Give the audience a glimpse into what the presidential leader scholar is, and how did that experience expand your network?
The Presidential Leadership Scholars Program was probably one of the most impactful leadership experiences I've ever had in my life. The reason why is because, one, once I got in, I got to that first meet, where you're meeting everybody, meeting your classmates, 60 other people from across the country, across the world, in fact. And I was like, how in the world? I think they got my file switched with somebody, because how am I sitting here with all of these folks? Some of the most amazing people that you see on CNN Heroes, like that's a reality of the people that I'm sitting around. But what it was get all of those folks, and then you do a fairly deep dive in history, presidential history, and you're talking with the actual people who were there at the time. So the program was built with President Bill Clinton and President George W. Bush getting together and saying they were starting to see all of this division show up. It's like, let's see if we can get a lot of people from very different walks of life, who have very different political ideologies, who certainly have different lived experiences, and put them together in this program, and let's take them through an experience that highlights leadership principles that presidents had to rely on and the people who are working very closely with them. So what it looks like is we do a module at each one of the presidential centers. The one in Little Rock, the one here in Dallas with George W. Bush. But even at the time, H.W. Bush and President H.W. Bush and then First Lady Barbara Bush were still with us. And that institute and that presidential center was part of this, and then the LBJ Center, right? So we spent multiple days at each one of those centers, and we went into the deep history. And we had some pretty honest talk that we can't even talk about right now because that's part of the thing. Like, we have some very clear talk and some challenging conversations, but we talk about, when the chips are down, what does principled leadership look like? And does it mean that I agree with everything that, some of these leaders chose to do? Absolutely not. But what I got to do was against the backdrop of just what this country is supposed to be. And looking at the times that we lived up to it and then times that we haven't, you get to ask some really important questions about yourself. What am I going to do? What would I do in that situation, given the information that they had and that I have, right? You get to really put yourself through that process. The other thing you do is there's something that happens when you're going through and you're looking at these places. You're listening to the phone call that LBJ made to Thurgood Marshall when he gave him the hint that he's probably going to get nominated and put forward to be the first Black Supreme Court justice. You listen to the phone calls that he and Martin Luther King were having as they were getting ready to plan the next big spur that would help get the Voting Rights Act over the hump. And then you have Selma, right? Like, you hear that and there's something that happens, man. You don't forget it. And you kind of see yourself across this scale of time. And for me, it caused me to, as opposed to lionize these people even more, I saw them in their humanity. And that should not have been as big of an epiphany as it was, but you see these images in black and white, man. It's Eyes on the Prize series that we used to watch, right? Or you remember what CNN looked like on the days of 9/11, right? Like, you see there's some distance there, but when you meet the people, you realize they're people. Mm-hmm. They are just people, just like you and I. However, a lot of these people were charged to do some things that were pretty extraordinary. A lot of these people were called to respond to some moments that were pretty extraordinary, which then caused me to ask the question, for them being so normal and having to do abnormal things, what gives me the right to not lean fully into natural people called to supernatural determinacy? And that's why the Presidential Leadership Scholars Program was so meaningful, because you go through that experience with 60 other people who become your sisters and brothers for life. And then you guys go out and then try and apply that to change the world in a material way.
Wow. How has being both a father and a husband expanded your perspective in life?
It probably sometimes feels cliche to say that being a husband and a father makes a person a better person. But I want to give some distinct examples for why that is 1,000% true in my case. Let me use my kids. I'll start with my kids. My daughter once told me that she sees things in black and white. And and she had been saying that for a long time. And my wife and I were constantly trying to tell her, things are not just black and white, but she would stand, she held her ground. She's like, no, I do. Things are black and white. And so one day we were kind of having another go around at this, and we said, I I think Celeste, my wife, might have asked my daughter, what do you mean when you say you see things in black and white? She's like, well, like I Love Lucy. She's like, yeah. So I see things in black and white, which means I see, it's not either this or that. It's probably some mix of things in between. And I was like, that's literally the opposite of seeing things in black and white. She's like, no. That's like, it's like in I Love Lucy. All of it is black and white. Like, she was thinking black and white TV, right? She's like, all of it is black and white, but even though it's all black and white and there's no color in it, I know that's hair and that's grass. There's a different shade of gray for that than there is of that. I see that's the sky, in daytime, and then that's the sky at nighttime. Because it's all black and white, but tiny differences allow us to see things differently. And I was like, oh, okay. Got it. I think she might have been 12, something like that. And she used, I'm paraphrasing, I'm using like adult language to explain, but that is what she said to me. How could that not illuminate my world and help explain things like the nuance in things and being able to live through nuance and seeing that, and that a kid could see that? That was amazing to me. My son has the most pure heart I have ever known. My son forced me to be comfortable with holding his hand well past the age where I thought that I would be holding my son's hand, and to hug and kiss him in a way that I did not feel comfortable doing because of how I was raised. Challenged me to have a more expansive view of my own masculinity and manness in this world, and to see that I can be a whole human who enjoys the touch of my own son's hand in mine. My wife is the mirror to my soul. Anytime I need to wonder just how I'm really processing something, I have a conversation with her because she knows me better than I know myself. And for her, having her as a partner in this world has allowed me to be accountable, has allowed me to better and more pristinely use that mission statement I told you about. My family allows me to put into practice all the things that I say I am supposed to be and I'm supposed to believe. And I am so blessed that they are in my lives and I get to be part of theirs.
Man, Byron, when are we going to see you run for the mayor of Dallas?
Brother, you know what, man? Is me and Ty, we talked about this before. I have had a lot of people, kind of call that into my life. But I don't have an answer for that. I do have an answer for you though.
Okay.
That I'm just like I told you, I don't do the 5-year plan anymore. I'm not naming a specific thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And I genuinely believe that right now. I know, some folks would be like, I don't know. He's going to take a swing. I don't know. Today, I really don't know. But I do know what I am going to step out and do. This is actually the first place that I'm announcing that I'm running for Dallas ISD Board of Trustees. Boom. So I'll be running to represent District 5, which is South Oak Cliff. Let's go. South Oak Cliff, West Dallas. Wilma Hutchins, Townview Magnets, Uptown area. Man, this district raised me, man. The city raised me. I'm wearing this hoodie because these are my people and I am theirs. I believe that even though I'm now in a different industry, I still believe that we don't have any better opportunity to make a difference in a human being's life than invest in the institution, the one institution that you have to be a part of Like you can't not do school. It's truancy laws about that, right? Whether it's private school, home school, public school, whatever. School, education is everything, man. Our brain develops over this arc. And there's no other place where for 13 years, you have access to a person for 7 hours a day, 6 to 7 hours a day, 13 years, 9 months out of that year. And why would we waste that opportunity? Why wouldn't we do every living thing that we can do to invest in that person's life, knowing that that will have the greatest impact on the rest of their lives than any other period in their life? That's why I am putting my time in public service toward our school district. And I believe that the public school institution, the ISD institutions, you could choose a lot of different things. My kids have done private school. My kids have done public school. But if you talk about the opportunity to make an impact on lives at scale, all the things that I've dedicated my life toward over the last 20 years, it feels like this is a culminating moment. And I can't wait to, if the people decide that I should be the one to represent them, I can't wait to really step out there on that trust part of the trustee, and to do right by the young people in that community, and quite frankly, throughout the entire school district.
Byron. So first of all, big ups.
Thank you, brother.
We are thrilled and excited. Tell us, when is the election, and how can those who are in the greater DFW, right, those across the world, support you? I'm no longer a registered lobbyist. So I'm free to be able to endorse whoever I want, right, and support whoever I want, right? So those who are rocking, I'm endorsing Byron Sanders for Dallas ISD, right? We're rocking with him. So
let's go.
Get your popcorn ready. How can folks support you, and what message would you have for those in District 5?
Man, by the time this airs, you go to byronsanders.com, follow us, donate whatever you have to contribute. We would love to take that, because that goes into making our story very proximate to the community, right? What we're all about is called District 5. That's the area that I was talking about. It's Power D5. And I say that because oftentimes, especially when you're talking about Southern Dallas, we talk about all of the deficits, right? We talk about the money that we don't have, the infrastructure that we haven't built. And all of that stuff is very true. Institutional inequity, been years in the making. It's created a deficit and opportunity. But the thing that we oftentimes don't prioritize is the power that these people have. Power, agency, brilliance, humor, beauty. That's what we have in District 5. And so when I say Power D5, I'm saying we have power. Not that we need to become empowered. We got it. All we doing is we're creating a road and a pathway for the young people and the people in that community to get access to the things that allow them to maximize their power. So 3 main pillars, man. 3 main pillars out the gate. We're talking about community power. So it's creating two-way streets so that people have more agency in their school district. The second power that we're talking about is innovation power. I want D5 to be the innovation front runners for the entire school district, which then allows us to be the innovation front runners for the entire country in public education. And then the third power is career power. All the stuff I was just talking about, jobs, man. Jobs and careers, and not just the first job. I'm talking about all the skills, those 21st century skills that allow you to progress. And so when the world shifts, when all of a sudden now we have autonomous vehicles out there, and you might have gone and got your commercial driver's license, you still have the skills to be able to switch careers and to get into a new space and still provide for you and your family, right? And so with the rapid pace of change, we have to be focused on those 3. Because if we focus on those 3, then the school district is going to be able to live up to its cause and not become a testing shop where, we're saying we're successful just because people can pass the STAR test or, get a 4 on the AP or whatever. What's the real life ways that this is having an impact on young people's lives? That's what we're working on. And I can't wait to, if the people choose me, be a partner with the district and making that happen.
When's the election?
May. I don't have the date. But it's in May.
May 25.
May 25th. That's it.
May 25th, year 2025. So May, y'all get ready. May, get registered. Get registered to vote.
Come on
out there.
May 25th. That's right.
What excites you about the future?
Whew. I don't know if you could tell. Yeah, I probably can. Man, I feel like I'm living a dream right now, Ty. I feel like I'm living a dream, even with as many things that we're having challenges with as in this country right now, right? The wildfires that are happening, the hurricanes we just had. We're dealing with climate crises. We're dealing with political division that we probably hadn't seen since the 60s. We're dealing with, guns, healthcare, and all of these different things. The thing that I am actually most excited about is hope. I still hear people have hope. Now, that hope sometimes is carried on the back of a righteous indignation, but I don't see people just sitting back and saying, throw up your hands and deal with whatever comes down. I see people willing to fight. I see people who want to see some things change. And my definition of hope, that tomorrow can be better than today, and my acting upon it makes it so. The thing that I am most excited about is that I still see people who have not lost hope. The thing I'm most excited about is I see that there are still people who have not lost hope. And so with that being the case, if we have hope, then we have space for ingenuity. If we have hope, then we have space for creativity. If we have hope, then we have some fight, right? I'm under no illusions that everybody's going to be happy about what I'm building right now over in healthcare. I'm under no illusions that everybody's going to be on board with what I say I would love to see happen with our school district. That's fine. But as long as I got my A1s and the people who are ready to go out and fight, and that underneath all of that desire to fight is a hope that we can actually win, then brother, that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about hope.
Byron, when it's all said and done,
Yeah.
how do you want to be remembered?
I have a tattoo on my arm. And it's Martin Luther King's first mugshot number. 7801. He's still my legendary, kind of paragon that I follow. If you haven't read Jonathan Ives' biography on MLK, please pick it up. It's phenomenal. The way that I want to be remembered is as a person, regardless of the cost. He was a person who lived for other people and did so with honor, character, bravery, and love. That's how my mission statement ends. That this was a person who lived with honor, character, bravery, and love. My mission statement, I knew I had it right when, in its very definition, it had everything to do with somebody other than me. And if the things that I do in my life, or the kind of person that I am on a day-to-day basis, for the folks who have small interactions with me, or the people who I work with for years and years on end, if they could all consistently say that, or the greater majority of them say it and believe it, then that's a life well lived. And that's how I'd like to be remembered.
Byron Sanders, on behalf of the Undisputed family, on behalf of our global audience, on behalf of the people of Dallas, on behalf of Oak Cliff, I want to thank you for leading, for serving, for putting people over profit, for putting people over bureaucracy, for launching Arete Health, right? And I just thank you for being a humanity, right? Your focus on humanity is important. And you bring that human aspect, and we need that. You see through color, class, zip code, right? You see people as people, right? And I look forward to being a witness to the greatness that you're going to continue to share to the world. I look forward to partnering with you even more closer.
Yeah,
right. So we're gonna rock. We're gonna rock on this.
Let's go, Ty. Yeah.
And I want everybody out there, right? Follow my man Byron Sanders. Be a part of it. Those of you in District 5, come out and support my man. But beyond that, this brother is on the rise, and trust me, he's already been doing some great stuff. We are anticipating that the Lord will. I'm just gonna say it. We're gonna take it to the pulpit.
Yeah.
That Lord's gonna continue to work great things through you. Your spirit, your focus, your determination to serve people is authentic. And we need people like you. We need you. Just walk in your purpose. You have your mission. You've been living your mission out for all these many years. And so it's been a pleasure that you join us today. And I want to just tell our audience, right? If you enjoyed this conversation, if you were inspired by this conversation, please click down on that subscribe button, give us a like, drop a comment. And until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. It's been the Undisputed Podcast.
My man.